So maybe ending our season in the Cheez It Bowl was not the goal for the Clemson Tigers. But you know what? Sometimes you just got to work with what you have. And Clemson should be very proud of what they've accomplished given all the injuries they've had, some of the turnover they had from last year to this year. And just overall, it's been a very up and down year for the program. But overall, it ends on a high note. 6 consecutive wins, including just beating Iowa State in the Cheez It Bowl. So very nice end to the year for Clemson. Very nice end to the career for a lot of players who've been there for quite a while. Unfortunately, not for James Skalski. He gets hurt early in the first quarter and doesn't see the field for the rest of the game. Dabo said in the post-game talk he tore his plantar fasciitis, something or other, plantar fasciitis, something like that. So, a tough way to end for James Skalski, but I'm sure he's going to get time to celebrate with all the guys out there and really enjoy a win and enjoy a positive end to a very turbulent season. But I just want to talk about some game notes. I'm going to try to keep it mostly positive because we won. If we had lost the game, I would have been very, very negative. But because we won, I'm in a good mood. I'm going to talk mostly positive. So today was the first game where we really got to see Brandon Streeter take over for Tony Elliott as the offensive coordinator, so calling the plays. And we saw Wes Goodwin. I think he's listed as the co-defensive coordinator, but he's calling plays, taking over for Brent Venables. Obviously, Venables now at Oklahoma. Tony Elliott at Virginia, both as head coaches. Overall, I thought the defense played very similar to what it had in the past, despite injuries, despite players going out. Andrew Booth Jr. unfortunately got hurt. He was getting a little scrappy with some of the receivers, but that started from the first play. If you watch the first play of the game, or at least the first offensive play, I think for Iowa State, they were already getting kind of scrappy out there. But Booth gets hurt. Obviously, Skalski got hurt, and there were some injuries, of course, from the beginning of the year carrying over into this game. No Brian Brzee, stuff like that. And I still felt the defense played very good. I mean, for the most part, Iowa State scored because the DJ Uiagalelei interception, bad punt by Will Spires, and there was that roughing the passer call on the interception that then fumbled and Iowa State recovered. That really never happened because it was a roughing the passer call, but whatever. Basically, 3 kind of fluke plays resulted in the points that Iowa State got, for the most part. So the defense played pretty well after the initial kind of punch by Iowa State early in the first quarter where they drove down the field, got some points. But other than that, defense played really well. Very, very encouraged by the showing of Wes Goodwin. Brandon Streeter, on the other hand, I mean, I was very positive early on in the game because we didn't have as many wide receiver screens. We had a lot of swing passes, but I'm okay with those, just as long as they're not wide receiver screens. Everyone knows I hate Tony Elliott's wide receiver screens. It's just awful. But play calling got very conservative very quickly, including in the first quarter, Clemson had an offsides call out, put them back a little bit. They were in the red zone. And instead going for the end zone, they just ran the ball right up the gut. It was very conservative offensively. And I understand why you do that, because when you let DJ Uiagalelei freelance, excuse me, I'm still messing that name up. He had that one interception that really turned this game around, really changed the momentum. Now, Clemson held on strong because of their defense, but for the most part, the offense never got going again after DJ throws an interception. He's on the run. He's throwing kind of across his body. And if you look in frame of the camera, there's 4 or 5 Iowa State players and just one Clemson guy. I think it was Davis Allen. And it's just, it makes no sense to try to throw that ball, but DJ tried it. And, of course, it gets kind of tipped a little bit, then intercepted. So I guess that's why you call mostly running plays. But yeah, so I'm not really happy with Brandon Streeter's offense so far, but you know what? It did enough to win the game because the defense was so freaking good. So some things we can at least always count on that defense playing well. Important point of note, the Tigers had no opt-outs for this game. Opt-outs, if you don't know, guys will opt out of bowl games sometimes if they're going to the NFL just to make sure they don't get hurt. It is a prominent discussion to have because we've seen guys get hurt, like guys like Jake Butt in the past, a really good tight end who never ended up really making it in the NFL. And we've seen it happen. Jalen Smith for Notre Dame, who became a linebacker for Dallas, ended up making a lot of money, but never really recovered the athleticism he had prior to the knee injury he suffered in a bowl game. There's a pretty big discussion about that, but Clemson had no opt-outs. Iowa State, on the other hand, Breece Hall, their best offensive weapon, probably the best player on their whole team in general, at running back, opts out. He's going to be probably top 50, top 60 pick. And they also had Mike Rose, a linebacker, not play as well. Let's see what else I got to talk about. Brock Purdy with the most interesting play of the game. He throws the ball, tries throwing it to his left. Clemson's defensive end gets his hands up, blocks the ball straight up into the air. Brock Purdy usually try to just spike the ball into the ground. Brock Purdy goes for it, and instead of spiking it into the ground, he kind of like pushes it up again. And Mario Goodrich gets the interception and returns it for a touchdown. Now, full credit to Goodrich for being just focused on the play, focused on the ball, and also to the Clemson defense for forming a wall in front of him and really making sure he got to the end zone. It was absolutely tremendous blocking by Clemson's defense on that return touchdown. I really think they must have drilled it. They must have drilled that because it looks so good out there. And Mario Goodrich, by the way, made another great play we'll talk about briefly. But yeah, I just don't understand what Brock Purdy was trying to do there. But like I said, full credit to the Clemson defense for being opportunistic. And they got their hands on, the defensive ends got their hands on quite a few passes today, getting their arms up. Didn't really get home quite often. I think KJ Henry had a sack. That was the only sack I remember off the top of my head. But again, getting their hands in passing lanes, quite a few block passes. So overall, another good showing by that defensive front that is so dominant, even with guys who are like, our third stringers are still really good. Like our third stringers on defense for that defensive line are still really good players. I talked about the DJ pass. I still don't understand that. It's kind of how you blow a lead. That is the textbook way of how you blow a lead after a huge momentum change. You get the pick six. You had scored rushing touchdown with Will Shipley just before that. You get all these points, and then you throw that interception that says Iowa State up to score. That's just how you lose these kind of games. But we got lucky, like I said, the defense holds strong, and the offense does enough to use enough time and the clock to put Iowa State in a tough situation. Yeah, I talked about that crazy sequence of events where Iowa State runs a trick play. They throw the ball downfield. It gets intercepted. Our guy's returning it. I forget who it was. He's one of the linebackers. One of the backup linebackers that was in the game. He's returning it. And he's holding the ball out, just swinging the ball out freely. An Iowa State guy comes from behind, punches it out. I think Iowa State recovers. But it doesn't matter because there was a roughing the passer call on one of our defensive guys for hitting. I think it was it was Makuta, I think, hit the receiver who was throwing the ball on the trick play. So technically the receiver qualifies as a quarterback, and he hit him in the head, so that's roughing the passer. So the play never happened, but there were some interesting plays in this game. It was kind of fun. It was a good game to watch. Yeah, so Clemson ended up bleeding points in this game because of turnovers. There was one really bad punt by Will Spires that kind of set us up to give up some points to Iowa State. And also the penalties like that roughing the passer call was the main one I saw in this game that gave Iowa State the opportunities to score and get back in this one. As I said, the offense is still lacking explosive plays. I'll check again because I don't know if it changed, but yeah, we did not have an offensive play go over 22 yards. The longest one was a 21-yard run by Kobe Pace was the longest play we had of the game. The longest pass play we had was 19 yards to Will Shipley. I'm guessing that was probably on a swing route where he was leaking out of the backfield. It was not actually to a wide receiver. The best offense, the most intriguing offensive play we probably had all game was that DJ Uiagalelei pass where he's getting sacked. He's halfway to the ground. He throws the ball up. One of the Collinses, I forget which one it was, Dakari or Bo, is in double coverage, and he jumps up in between two Iowa State defensive backs and pulls the ball down and saves what could have been an ugly interception. I suppose that's also why you run the ball so often and don't let DJ freelance, but yeah, that was a really good play as well by the receiver, not by DJ. Because that really could have been a bad play. But that was probably the most explosive play we had all game. So I guess you can't judge Streeter too much because you don't have Justin Ross out there. It's such a weird thing to not see Justin Ross, Joseph Magada, Frank Ladson, or E.J. Williams in the box score. Not having any of those guys in the box score, it's just mind-boggling to me. Now, I understand why. Ross obviously is done for the year. I think Magada's hurt. I think Ladson is transferring. Williams has been hurt all year. I understand why they're not out there. It's just crazy to me that you have that many talented receivers and none of them are actually even playing in this game. But, I think Joe is also transferring, if I'm not mistaken. One more bad play that really hurt Clemson. Will Putnam comes in late, puts Clemson in second and 17 because he just total no self-awareness whatsoever. Comes in late, a play's already over, gets penalized for not unnecessary roughness. What was it called? I forget what it was, but pushes back. It's a second and 17. Clemson just runs the ball like a draw on 3rd and 8, and that's the point in the game where my my take on play calling just completely did a 180. I'm like, all right, this is terrible. I can't take this anymore. So the play calling is still really weird, but Will Spires did redeem himself. He had 2 really, really good punts towards the end of this game that really helped out Clemson quite a bit. And then Mario Goodrich is the hero of the day, should be the MVP of that game because he forces a fumble on Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's running. It's a 3rd down play. Mario Goodrich comes up, hits Brock Purdy, forces him to fumble because he'd already crossed the 1st down marker, forces Brock Purdy to fumble the ball. Clemson does not recover, but Purdy recovered his own fumble, except he'd gone back behind the 1st down marker to get the ball and was tackled there, which means that technically he doesn't get the 1st down, and it becomes Clemson's ball. There were some wild plays in this game, now I'm thinking about it, but Clemson ends up taking over on downs, and that's it. That's the game. So Mario Goodrich, a guy, by the way, who's helped his NFL draft stock, really, 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 really gone from being just almost a nobody in the NFL draft conversation to being a guy who could be a top 100 pick potentially at best. Probably will go in the top 4 rounds if he enters the draft. So Mario Goodrich, great plays in this game. I know him and Booth gave some catches up early on, but they really tightened things up later in the game. The coverage was great down the stretch, which is why the defense was able to get to Brock Purdy and get pressure on him more consistently in the 4th quarter and in the 3rd quarter. Overall, very happy with how the defense performed, given that we were missing a bunch of guys with injuries. And the offense, I don't know what to think about this offense. I'm being honest, guys. I don't know. I love the running backs. Don't get me wrong. I think all the running backs, Kobe Pace, Phil Maffa, Will Shipley, obviously. I'm big fans of all 3 of those guys. I think they're all going to be really good players. I'm actually worried one of them might transfer because you'd have a 3-headed backfield. I don't know if they want to split carries like that. But I think overall, I am very happy with the running backs. I don't know about DJ. I don't know about the receivers. Davis Allen's coming back next year at tight end, so I'm happy about that. That's a huge security blanket. But again, yeah, there's just some guys I don't know. This offense, I just don't know how it's going to function sometimes. Thankfully, we do have a quarterback, Cade Klubnik, coming in. He's a 5-star recruit. He was according to 24/7 Sports, the number 1 quarterback recruit in the nation. He's coming in to join Clemson this coming year. So hopefully he'll push DJ a little bit. And we'll see if one of them wins out. Maybe the offense will kind of open itself up a little bit to have more explosive plays again. But, yeah, I'm just going to keep hoping that things turn around. Looks like we also have 2 4-star receivers coming in with this class, along with 2 4-star corners. That's a pretty good haul. All right. Going to be a lot of work to do. There's a lot of guys who are leaving this team, whether it's via transfer portal or the NFL draft. So, yeah, looks like we're going to have some really exciting young blood. But overall, before we start looking ahead to next year, great finish to the season for the Clemson Tigers. It was a rough year with injuries and everything. I understand that. Definitely not the best team we fielded in the last couple of years, but still have to be proud of the guys who are going out there and winning a bowl game and finishing the year strong when they really could have just quit. So overall, very satisfying end to the season for the Clemson Tigers.